The kitchen window exploded into 1,000 pieces as my body crashed through it. Everything went bright white, then dark, then bright again. I heard a sound like fireworks, but it was just glass breaking everywhere. The cold air hit my skin. Rain started falling on my face. I couldn't feel anything except wetness. My knees were on the ground. Little pieces of glass were everywhere, shining like tiny stars. From inside the warm house, I heard voices yelling. But they sounded far away, like they were underwater. My daughter-in-law Sarah was screaming. My son Tommy was shouting something. But nobody came outside to help me. I just sat there in the rain, watching red drops fall from my hand onto the white stones below. I put my hands on the ground and pushed myself up. Hurt. A big piece of glass was stuck in my arm. I pulled it out slowly. More red came out. The rain kept falling, mixing with the red on my hands. I looked up at the broken window. I could see Tommy standing there looking at me. Then he turned around and walked away. He just walked away. Sarah pulled the curtains closed. That's when I understood something important. This wasn't a mistake. They wanted this to happen. They thought I was just a poor old woman with no money. They thought I had nothing. But they were wrong. So very wrong. I had something they didn't know about. Something I kept secret for many, many years. $21 million. Hidden away where nobody could find it. I never thought I would be standing outside my own house, bleeding and alone. Not at 70 years old. Not after everything I did for my family. The rain kept coming down harder. It was a cold Tuesday in November. The kind of day where the sky is gray and sad. Tommy and Sarah had been acting strange for weeks. They would stop talking when I walked into rooms. They would whisper to each other and laugh. I knew something was wrong. I'm old, but I'm not stupid. I started to notice things. My mail was open before I got it. My computer password was changed. The lock on my bedroom door was broken. Sarah stood in the kitchen that morning, drinking her coffee. She looked at me with cold eyes. "You need to give us the house," she said. Her voice was sweet, but her words were mean. "You're too old to take care of it anyway." I looked at my son Tommy. He was sitting at the table, playing with his phone. He wouldn't look at me. "Tommy," I said quietly. He didn't answer. "This house has my name on it," I told Sarah. "I built this place. I paid for everything." Sarah's smile disappeared. "That's the problem," she said. "You think you own everything. But you're just an old woman now. Nobody needs you anymore." I told them no. I said we should sit down and talk about it like a family. That's when Sarah's face changed. She looked angry. Really angry. "You're being difficult," she said, walking toward me. "You need some air to clear your head." She grabbed my arm. Hurt. Her fingers dug into my skin. "Sarah, please," I said. But she didn't let go. Tommy stood up. He walked over to us. For a second I thought he would help me. I thought my son would protect his mother. But he didn't. He put his hand on my back. Not to comfort me. Push me. Everything happened so fast. One second I was standing in my kitchen. The next second I was flying backward. My back hit something hard. The window. I heard it crack. Then I felt myself falling. The glass broke apart. Sharp edges cut my skin. I landed outside on the stones. The rain was so cold. Everything hurt. I could smell the wet dirt and the pine trees. I lay there for a minute, trying to understand what just happened. My own son pushed me through a window. My own child. I heard Sarah's voice from inside. "Oh no. She fell," she yelled. "It was an accident. She lost her balance." But the window stayed closed. Nobody came outside. Tommy didn't move. I could see his shadow through the curtain. He just stood there. He watched me bleeding on the ground and did nothing. I stood up slowly. My sweater was torn. My shoes were full of water. But I wasn't crying. Felt something else. Something cold and clear. Like when you finally understand a hard math problem. Everything made sense now. All the strange things. All the mean words. All the times they made me feel small. They wanted me gone. They wanted my house. They thought I was weak and poor. They thought pushing me would break me. I walked down the long driveway. I didn't look back. My car was parked on the street. I got in and started driving. I didn't go to the hospital. I drove to a small restaurant by the ocean. A place that smelled like salt and fried fish. The restaurant was almost empty. I sat in a corner booth. The waitress saw the blood on my arms and brought me napkins and bandages. "You okay, honey?" she asked softly. I nodded. She didn't ask more questions. She just helped me clean up. That night I sat there drinking coffee and thinking. The rain hit the windows. I remembered everything. I remembered paying for Tommy's school. I remembered buying their first car. I remembered signing papers so they could buy a business. I remembered every birthday, every holiday, every time I said yes when they asked for money. And this is how they thanked me. By throwing me through a window like garbage. I took out my phone and made a call. Not to Tommy. Not to the police. I called my old friend Margaret. She owns a small hotel near the beach. "I need a room," I told her. "And I need you not to ask questions." Margaret understood. "Come right over," she said. I drove to her hotel. It was small and quiet. The kind of place where nobody bothers you. I stayed there for 3 days. 3 days to think. 3 days to plan. 3 days to remember who I really was. Before Tommy. Before Sarah. Before I became someone who apologized for taking up space. I was once a woman who ran a business. Who made smart choices. Who saved and planned and built something from nothing. I woke up early every morning. I made lists. I wrote down everything I remembered. Every strange thing they did. I remembered 2 months ago when I found Sarah in my bedroom, looking through my papers. I remembered last month when Tommy asked me to sign a paper. He said it was for insurance, but I never saw that paper again. I remembered the day my credit card stopped working. Tommy said it was a mistake. But now I knew better. They were getting ready to take everything. But they forgot something important. They forgot that I was smart once. And smart people don't forget how to be smart. On the second day, I remembered something very important. 3 months ago I felt scared. I didn't know why, but something felt wrong. So I did something secret. I bought a tiny camera. The kind you can't see. I watched the video. I saw myself in the kitchen. I saw Sarah walk toward me. I heard every word she said. "Give us the house, you useless old woman." I saw Tommy stand up. I saw him put his hand on my back. I saw them both push me. Hard. The video showed everything. Then it showed the worst part. After I went through the window, Sarah looked at Tommy. They both stared at me lying outside in the rain. They stood there for 30 whole seconds. Just watching. Not helping. Not calling for help. Just watching me bleed. Then Sarah said, "Let's say she fell." And they walked away from the window. The next morning I called a lawyer. His name was Mr. Patterson. He was older than me and had gray hair and serious eyes. I told him everything. Then I showed him the video. He watched it without saying anything. When it finished, he looked at me. "Mrs. Williams," he said, "this is very serious. This isn't just being mean. This is a crime. They hurt you on purpose." He nodded. "What do you want to do?" he asked. I took a deep breath. "I want justice," I said. "And I want to protect myself." Mr. Patterson started typing on his computer. "We'll file charges," he said. "Assault, elder abuse, attempted theft. And we'll make sure they can't touch anything of yours." That afternoon I did something else important. I went to my bank. A special bank in the city where I kept my biggest secret. For 40 years I saved money. Not the money Tommy knew about. Different money. I worked as a teacher, but I also invested. I bought small parts of companies. I bought land. I saved every extra dollar. I was smart with money. Over the years, that money grew and grew and grew. Until it became $21 million. Tommy thought I was poor. He thought I lived on a tiny retirement check. He was so wrong. The bank manager smiled when she saw me. "Mrs. Williams, what can we do for you today?" I told her I needed to protect my money. She understood immediately. We spent 2 hours signing papers, moving money, creating new accounts. Accounts that only I could touch. Accounts with passwords and special locks. When we finished, my money was completely safe. Tommy couldn't get it. Sarah couldn't get it. Nobody could touch it except me. I also rented a new apartment downtown. It was small but clean, modern, beautiful. The first thing I put on the counter was a black folder. Inside that folder was everything I needed. The video on a thumb drive. Papers showing I owned the house. Papers showing my money. And Mr. Patterson's legal documents. For years I kept a diary. I wrote in it every day. Small things I noticed. Strange things Tommy and Sarah did. Like the time I found my bank statement opened on the kitchen table. Or the time Sarah asked about my will. Or the time my Medicare card went missing. I thought I was just being paranoid. But I wasn't. I was being careful. Now I read through that diary. Page after page of things I wrote down. Things I noticed. Things that seemed small at the time but now made sense. They had been planning this for a long time. Maybe years. They were trying to make me feel crazy. Make me feel useless. So I would just give up and give them everything. At exactly 10 in the morning, I walked into Mr. Patterson's office. He had everything ready. "We have enough evidence to destroy them in court," he said. His voice was calm but strong. "This isn't just assault. This is elder abuse. This is financial manipulation. This is fraud." I asked him to keep everything quiet for now. I didn't want Tommy and Sarah to know what was coming. He agreed. By noon I signed all the papers. By evening I was back in my new apartment. It would take a few weeks before the court papers were ready. But the wheel was turning. Justice was coming. And they had no idea. That night I realized something. Tommy and Sarah didn't just see me as annoying. They saw me as something in their way. Something they needed to remove. Like a rock in a path. They wanted me gone. Maybe they thought I would just disappear. Maybe they thought I would die soon and they could take everything. But they didn't know the truth. They didn't know about the money. They didn't know I had proof. They didn't know I was already 10 steps ahead. I created a special trust. A trust is like a safe that holds your money. I put most of my money in that trust. With rules. Rules that said only I could touch it. Rules that protected it forever. 3 days later, Mr. Patterson called me early in the morning. "It's done," he said. "The complaint is filed with the court." That means the official legal papers were submitted. The process had started. That afternoon, a man delivered an envelope to Tommy and Sarah's house. My house. Inside that envelope were copies of the complaint. A letter from Mr. Patterson's law office. Papers demanding they return all my personal documents. And a court order. The order said they couldn't contact me. They couldn't call me. They couldn't text me. They couldn't come near me. If they did, they would go to jail. It was official. Legal. Final. That same week, I met with a man named Mr. Chen. He helps people plan what happens to their money. I told him I wanted to do something good. Something meaningful. I wanted to use my money to help other older women. Women like me. Women whose families treated them badly. Women who felt invisible. Mr. Chen smiled. "That's a beautiful idea," he said. We worked together for hours. We created a plan. Charity. A place where older women could get free lawyers. Where they could get help finding jobs. Where they could learn they still mattered. I decided to donate millions of dollars to this charity. Money that would help hundreds of women. Few days later my phone rang. It was a voicemail from Sarah. Her voice sounded fake and sweet. "Mom Williams," she said. "I'm so shocked about these accusations. This is all a misunderstanding. You fell. It was an accident. Let's talk about this privately. We can work this out." There was no apology. No "I'm sorry." No real concern. Just manipulation. Just lies. I deleted the voicemail. Mr. Patterson told me not to respond. He would handle everything. My job wasn't to talk to them anymore. My job was to move forward. I bought a new coat. Strong, warm coat. Dark blue. made for cold weather. I started writing letters. Not to Tommy. Not to Sarah. Letters to myself. To the younger versions of me. Dear Eleanor, at 40 I wrote. You did your best. You loved your son. That was enough. You don't need his approval to matter. Dear Eleanor, at 60. I'm sorry they didn't appreciate you. But that doesn't mean you weren't valuable. You were. You are. I wrote letter after letter. And with each one I felt lighter. I forgave myself. For being too nice. For staying too long. For believing their lies. 2 days later I drove back to the city. But I didn't go to my apartment. I went to a small office building downtown. The paperwork was finished. The charity was real. Official. It had a name, the Sunrise Project. That's what we called it. Because every day is a new beginning. I walked into the office. It was small. Just 2 rooms. But it was mine. Welcome, Mrs. Williams, the young woman at the desk said. Your office is ready. I walked into my new office. There was a simple desk, chair, a window that looked out at the street. I sat down and felt something shift inside me. Tommy once told me I was too emotional, that I needed to stop taking things so personally. Now I was taking everything personally. Not because I was hurt, but because I was powerful. And I knew it. The first time I saw Sarah again was strange. She was showing houses. That's her job. She sells expensive homes to rich people. What she didn't know was that I had quietly bought the company that owned those houses. My money. My investment. I walked through one of the houses she was showing. I looked at the rooms. The kitchen. The bedrooms. Sarah's assistant followed me. Ma'am, she said rudely. This is a private showing. I turned around and handed her my business card. The card was thick and fancy. It had the name of the investment company on it. And underneath it said, Eleanor Williams, managing partner. The assistant's face went white. She stammered. She didn't know what to say. 10 minutes later, Sarah appeared. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking. She knew. She knew I owned the company. She knew I wasn't broke. She knew everything she believed was a lie. I looked at her calmly. Everything leaves a trail, Sarah, I said quietly. Every lie. Every cruel word. Every push. It all comes back eventually. Then I walked past her and left. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't need to. The truth was enough. Back at my apartment, I got an email from Mr. Patterson. The case was moving forward. There would be meetings where both sides tell their stories. He included a list of evidence. The video. Written statements from neighbors who heard the fight. Records of Tommy trying to access my bank accounts. Everything was building. Like a slow, unstoppable wave. That week, the charity received its first donation. $5 million. From me. I sat at my desk and took a deep breath. The ground underneath Tommy and Sarah was crumbling. Everything they built on lies was falling apart. And I was no longer part of their destruction. I was building something new. Something good. I didn't hear from Tommy. Not a word. Not a text. Not a call. His silence told me everything. He knew he was caught. Mr. Patterson forwarded me an email from Sarah's lawyer. They wanted to settle out of court. That means they wanted to pay me money to make the case go away. They wanted to buy my silence. Mr. Patterson's response was short and clear. We will proceed as planned. That means no. We're going to court. The next morning, Mr. Patterson called with an update. The discovery phase was ending. That's the part where both sides share their evidence. The court approved a hearing. The video would be shown to the judge. The secret would become official. Everyone would see what they did. I spent the afternoon at the botanical garden, walking among the flowers and trees. I remembered the last Christmas at that house. I saw my reflection in a shiny ornament. I looked sad. Tired. I didn't. Then the judge spoke. She said the case would continue. The evidence was strong. The protective order against Tommy and Sarah would stay in place. And it would become permanent. That means forever. They could never contact me again. Then she said something else. Their bank accounts would be frozen. That means they couldn't touch their money. The court would investigate everything. Where their money came from. What they owned. Everything. When the judge hit her wooden hammer, it made a loud sound. Felt like a door closing. I stood up. I nodded to Mr. Patterson. Then I walked out. I didn't look back at Tommy. I didn't look at Sarah. I just left. At a small coffee shop, I opened my journal. Found today's date. I drew a firm line through it. Then I turned to a fresh, clean page. I wrote one sentence. I am not broken. That evening I found a letter under my door. Someone had slid it there. It was from Tommy. The handwriting was shaky and messy. I'm sorry, it said. I was under so much pressure. Please remember the boy I used to be. I read it once. Just once. Then I put it in a drawer. I closed the drawer and never opened it again. Forgiveness is something you do quietly. Inside yourself. It's not a show you put on for the person who hurt you. I sat by the window in the dark. Felt peace. Real peace. The house was mine again. Legally. Officially. The charity had its first big meeting scheduled. There were women I could help. Lives I could change. Not because I wanted revenge. But because I had purpose. And that was a power Tommy and Sarah could never touch. The Sunrise Project held its first community meeting. Dozens of women came. Their faces told stories. Stories of pain. Of being ignored. Of being made to feel small. A woman named Maria sat next to me. I used to think becoming invisible was just part of getting old, she said. But maybe it's not. I told her that I thought the same thing once. She smiled. Then maybe it's time we change what strength means, she said. That evening I opened a blank notebook. I remembered the notes I used to write for Tommy's school lunch. You've got this. I believe in you. Now I started writing those words to myself. Eleanor. The final piece of paperwork sat on the table. The legal papers that would transfer all my money. All $21 million. Into the charity's trust. A trust that would help women forever. Picked up the pen. My hand was steady. I signed my name on the last page. Felt like saying goodbye. Goodbye to the woman who was afraid of her own power. One more time I drove past the old house. New people lived there now. They put up wind chimes. I could hear them singing softly in the breeze. The broken window was fixed. Replaced with new glass. Felt nothing. No sadness. No anger. No attachment. My phone buzzed. A final message from Mr. Patterson. The judgment was complete. Tommy was ordered to attend counseling for 5 years. He was also on financial probation. That means the court would watch his money. Sarah settled. She gave up all claims. She couldn't ask for anything. It was over. Not with fireworks or drama. Just with the quiet scratch of a pen. My granddaughter Lily sent me a drawing. She's only 8. She drew a picture of a woman standing at a window. Snow was falling outside. I remember you like this, Grandma, she wrote. In that moment I forgave myself. For all the years I believed my value came from how much pain I could endure in silence. This story isn't just mine. It's for Lily. For Maria. For every woman who has been made to feel like she doesn't matter. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's just the truth. The truth that you matter. That you have value. That you are strong. And once you find that truth inside yourself, it becomes the only voice you need to hear. Thank you for listening to my story. This is Grandma Stories, reminding you that it's never too late to reclaim your power.